All right, that was strange. The I got kicked off the live stream, so hopefully you're gonna find me again. That was strange. That's never happened before, and I have no idea where uh, we left off or what you heard me saying, what you didn't. But where I was moving toward is how does David console himself, and why does God? Questions I have is why does God allow David to experience all these things if He has already anointed him as king and made him this promise? Why is He allowing him to suffer this anguish? Where he's fleeing for his life. I think there's an answer to this that is so important for us to catch. God sees David's tears. He's right there with him. Why does He allow him to experience this stuff? And it's so important because here's how David consoles himself. And this is the verse I want to point to. He says it twice in this psalm. He says in verse 3, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." Based upon what? What is David's trust based on? He says, "In God, whose word I praise. In God I trust. I shall not be afraid. What can flesh do to me?" And he says it very similarly again in verse 10. He goes, or at the end of verse 9 says, "This I know that God is for me." How does he know God is for him? Everybody's trying to kill him. He's running away, and God doesn't seem to be protecting him in any way. He's hiding and fleeing for his life. And now he flees into the hands of a different captor. How does he know that God is for him? "In God, whose word I praise. In the Lord, whose word I praise. In God I trust. I shall not be afraid. What can man do to me?" So what is the word that David is putting his trust in? I believe he's putting his trust in the word of the Lord that David would be king. And that's at least one of the options. There's probably many options. We can think of several in our own lives when we think about our circumstances, and we're trying to grow our faith and put our trust in the Lord. And sorry, I got a notification here. We're trying to grow our faith, and God allows us to experience these difficult, terrible, soul-anguishing things for a reason. God has promised David He's going to be a king. And it's now on David to say, do I believe that or not? Do I believe in God's word? And though he's in a very real, life-threatening situation, he resolves in his own mind to trust. I'm going to trust in the Lord. He has spoken his word about me, and in this promise, I will put my trust in God, who I believe, whose character is good. I'm going to put my trust in him. He's going to fulfill his promise. How can he fulfill his promise if I'm dead? So what can man do to me? And so it's not as if David now has these superhuman powers and I'm untouchable and he acts in any cavalier way. In fact, the way he escapes Gath is quite strange, actually. He pretends to be insane. And the king kicks him out of the city. He's like, I don't need any madmen in my presence. Get out of here, That's how he escapes. So here is David saying, so he doesn't feel impervious at all to the attack of men, but he is simply trusting in God's word to come to fruition. It's going to happen. And so I'm going to trust. And so I'm going to console myself, though I'm afraid, though I fear for my life, though I'm in anguish, I can't sleep at night, my tears are running down my face. I know God sees my tears. And, sorry, I keep getting these notifications. So I'm glad you're back with me, everybody. I hope, I don't know why that happened. The internet failed me here. Maybe it's the cold. I don't know. So, but David is trusting in the word of the Lord. And so God allows him to experience these things in order that his faith would be tested. We see this as a universal way that God works with his people. He tests our faith. He allows us to endure circumstances so that our faith becomes stronger. David had to be put in a position to say, do I believe this or not? Am I trusting God or am I not? I'm in a real bad situation. I feel it with all of my heart, with all of my soul. But you know what? I'm going to trust in the Lord. And this really is, we can see in contrast to how Israel responded when God put them in difficult circumstances, when they're wandering, particularly when they're wandering in the wilderness. It's one of the things that the Old Testament writers and the New Testament writers point to is that generation of Israel constantly put the Lord their God to the test. God was testing them in order to build their faith. But they tested God right back. They sinned against God by asking the question, God, are you for us or not? David, I am convinced, was asking the question, do I believe this or not? He was taking responsibility and saying, God is true. God has given me his word. Do I believe that or not? And that consoled him, and he acted in faith, and he moved forward. Whereas Israel, in their time of wandering, they were constantly not asking themselves, do I believe God or not? They were asking God, are you for us or not? And they were putting the test back on God and constantly displaying their unbelief, displaying their lack of faith. They were still God's people. God cared for them. He continued to feed them and all those things, but they were so stubborn. They would not allow God to build and strengthen their faith through these testings. And that's why they couldn't enter the promised land. And so I think, and the writer of Hebrews makes the same argument to the people to whom he is writing, and I think by extension to all of us. And I think we can learn from David here that, when we go through difficult times, it's really God giving us an opportunity to ask that question of ourselves. Do I believe this or not? Do I believe in the Lord? Do I believe that he it has good intended for me? Do I believe that in the character of God? Am I going to put my trust in him? And then when we do that, though we are experiencing all the difficulties, I'm not minimizing that at all, and how terrible that is and difficult it is and can be, we are put in a position to place our faith in God and console ourselves with that faith. And this is how the psalm ends. The very last verse of David is written in past tense. His deliverance hasn't taken place yet, but he believes it so much that he writes this last statement in past tense. I love this. Verse 13, for you have delivered my soul from death, yes, my feet from falling, that I may walk before God in the light of life. So he says, you've delivered me. I'm convinced of it. It hasn't happened yet, but I know you've done it. I'm just going to wait on it. I don't know how it's going to take place, but God, I know it will because of your promises toward me. And so that is the same as true for today as it was for David, for each of us. That life's circumstances, when they become difficult, are simply means for us to say, do I believe it or not? Do I believe God or not? Do I believe in his character? And our faith, and when we do, we console ourselves with our faith, and we step forward and we trust in the Lord, our faith grows, it deepens. And so I don't know what your experience is today, but I ask this question, I constantly ask myself this question. In leadership, especially in these trying times, when I get down and I get discouraged, and people are, on this side telling me one thing, on this side telling me another thing, and I'm really feeling convinced in our collective leadership, this is the course we got to go, and people are pressing in, I think, God, what's going on here, and I get frustrated and I lose sleep and all those things. And then I ask my question, this is a common question I ask myself, Mark, do you believe this stuff or not? Do you believe God is in control of this or not? Do you believe that God is going to build his church, that God is going to save people? Yeah, I do believe that. Well, then act like it. Okay, God, I'm in. I'm just going to keep stepping another step forward. You've seen my prayers. You've seen my tears. You're collecting them in a Bible. You've recorded them in your book. I'm just going to take another step of faith today, and my faith becomes stronger as a result. So hopefully you've hung with me all through that and are disconnect and reconnect. And God bless you today. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.